Right, we're going to go ahead and get started. Again, good morning, everyone. This is Eliana over at American Independent Marketing. First off, we just want to thank you all for joining us for our first ever LTC workshop. We're so happy to have so many of you with us, and we're looking forward to sharing some great info with you over the next few weeks. Just a few reminders for this first session. We will be giving away 4 Amazon gift cards at the end of this session, but to be eligible to win, you must stay on for the whole presentation. Winners will be announced at the end of the session, and we will be sending the electronic Amazon gift cards by email. I also want to remind everyone that our next session will take place next Tuesday, September 22nd, again at 10 a.m. Pacific, and it will cover hands-free LTC cross-marketing. We'll be joined by our special guest, Erin Cassover, who deals with a lot of our digital marketing and technology solutions here at AIM. So we're really looking forward to that. It should be a great presentation. And again, we'll be giving away 4 more Amazon gift cards during that session as well, so don't miss out. And don't forget, by registering for today's presentation, you're automatically registered for the entire workshop. So no need to go sign up for next week's presentation again. You'll be receiving an email with information on how to join later this week, so keep an eye out for that. Now I'm going to turn this over to our Vice President, David Wayne.
Well, thank you, Eliana, and good morning, or depending on where you're sitting at, good afternoon. Wanted to just take a minute before we got started on this webinar because we all have experienced quite a bit lately with changes in the way we're doing business, and right now from Smoky, Washington, we are experiencing challenges again with what we have with the conditions that we're in. And I think that a lot of people that are on the phone can realize if you are in California, Washington, Oregon, Idaho, you're feeling just exactly what we're going through. With that, I think all of the country, you can find that there are conditions out there that people have to deal with that affects their day-to-day business, and we are definitely in an understanding mode that we have to make changes. So with that being said, between hurricanes, fires, and whatever else, and also, as we all know, that dreaded COVID-19, that things have changed, and we are definitely about adapting to those changes. So we're extremely excited to begin this webinar series that we have built, and it is a 4-part series webinars that will help producers like yourself to continue to do business in this ever-changing world that we're in, and we need to learn to adapt to those changes because it's made it very difficult to continue to do the way we've been working for several years. In our very first webinar today, we're going to take the time to show you how to work remotely with the various different e-apps that are out there through the carriers that we do business with. The reason that we're doing that is simply to show people that it isn't as intimidating as you might think. I think that any time that the first time you do anything, you're just not sure, and we're going to try to show you the easy points and anything to look out for with the various companies that we do business with to give you a good start and a good feeling to start working with the e-apps. Our second, as Eliana mentioned on the phone, will be marketing, where we're going to talk about how to do digital marketing. Now, this is very important because we are going into a new stage of working remotely in a lot of ways, and with challenges that we're facing every day, we will find that this is a great way, once you put the effort in and you set up this, that will continually be able to keep you in front of qualified prospects. So that'll be a real exciting with Erin Cassover and Mike going through that with you. And then our third one is like having the meat in the sandwich, underwriting. We will be covering the ins and outs of underwriting so that you know when to pivot to a different type of product or what product might be the best for your customers, whether it's traditional long-term care, maybe it's a hybrid or a linked product, or even some of these easier issued products out there. The underwriting is the key from the very start to know exactly where the best place to go with your client. And then lastly, we're going to finish up with the additional solutions we have for you with the products and show you how to utilize those so that it keeps you in business with a variety of different products to use, whether it's a underwriting issue or a premium issue or whatever it might be that your customer brings to you. We have solutions for you to use, and we'll be covering those solutions. So, like I said, we're very excited to get started with this, and I think you will find that these tools and this information that we're going to be giving you over the next 4 weeks will be very beneficial for you to start adapting to working remotely or more efficiently. With that, I'd like to bring Mike Anderson on and have him start the show.
All right, great.
Mike,
Thanks,
are you there?
Dave. Yeah, I'm here. Sorry about that. I was clearing off a wind pop. So, good morning, everybody. I'll reiterate what Dave and Eliana both said. We're really happy to have a very large crowd here with us this morning, and we're really excited about the opportunity to do this ongoing series of webinars for you. This will take us into the middle of October, and the nice part about that is it sets the stage for you to be ready for Long-Term Care Awareness Month, which takes place during the month of November. So as we go through the next, I'm hoping to get at about 45 minutes. We're going to talk about a number of different things and get everything set up for you, give you this short look at each of 3 of our carriers and their electronic resources that they're making available, and then get you positioned. You will all get a follow-up phone call from myself or my colleagues Don Erickson and Anthony Satadine, and that'll be specifically to deal with any questions that you might have, and then most importantly, take that step to get you started with the contracting process. So one of the things that we have seen both in our marketplace and in other marketplaces and market segments is that the desire to meet virtually has never been stronger, and that has been reinforced for us by the COVID situation. And we've done a number of different things over the last few months to try to help agents that might have been a little bit behind the curve on that transition into more comfortably into this virtual marketplace. Take advantage of what I refer to generically as screen share technology. And as Dave noted before, that's been dictated by and large for us by changes in the marketplace. And among the different changes that we've dealt with over the last 6 months is that there's very clearly an increased awareness on the part of the general public that the one place for certain that they don't want to be is in a nursing home. And that's a great opportunity for us because the products that we work with can position them to get care in a non-facility situation. That's a phenomenal opportunity, but it also has pushed us and nudged us and cajoled us here and with you folks in the field to take advantage of a resource that's for the most part been around for a while, but it's a little bit about just embracing something that's going to make it easier for us to adapt and help you adapt. And as we talk about a lot on these webinars, it really comes down to us helping you be in a position to help more people. It's also a nice add-on that these electronic processes reduce paperwork, they reduce clutter significantly. They make it pretty difficult to send in an app that's what they call NIGO or not in good order. And that's also effective because that lets you transition from the selling appointment into the next prospecting appointment with clients and keep moving forward, helping folks out rather than circling back to sweep up after prior appointments that you had. What you're going to see today during this 45 minutes or so is 3 processes that are different but they get you to the same output. That output is that this information that you've pulled together, these questions that you've answered, go directly into the carrier, speeds up the underwriting process by probably 3 or 4 days once you get familiar with it and they begin to assimilate what you're doing in there, and they connect you as an agent with their contracting folks and sort of check off and confirm that you have the right appointment paperwork, et cetera. Once those details are done, it moves you through much more quickly. It's important to note, none of these are going to look like the application that the paper app that you are familiar with, but they do accumulate and aggregate information, and then they put it in a position to where you can generate a completed app that is then electronically signed and goes to the carrier. And the finish of this will be to talk about taking the also electronic steps to get that contracting done and to get it done right away and take advantage of time that you've got now. You can't get access to these different electronic resources without having a producer number for each of the 3 carriers that we have. So you're going to have to go ahead and do that. The days of old where we could send in contracting paperwork and that first app together, well, that's very much the old way of doing things. So the first carrier that we're going to take a look at, and what I'm going to do as we go through this is I'm going to kind of give you an overview of the particular carrier. Then we're going to switch away, and I'm actually going to take you out to their e-app process and give you an overview there. Important to note that all 3 carriers we're going to look at today have really strong resources, what I'm going to categorize as support resources, to enable you to get very familiar and very comfortable with how this process works prior to the time that you have to actually step into that. So the first one we're going to take a look at is our flagship, that's Mutual of Omaha. They use a process called Efficient Solutions. When you get to the end, the signature piece looks a lot like a process called DocuSign. Many of you are familiar with that from other carriers and other products that you may be working with. One of the really nice things about Mutual is they have a sandbox option, and every single time that I get an agent into the Mutual process, I encourage them very, very strongly to take advantage of that sandbox opportunity, because it allows them to get familiar with the flow and the visual look and understand how it kind of sets up, if you will, so that when they get into a live fire exercise, when they are transacting, they don't get snagged by something. One of the unique things available with Mutual, and it's worth noting, I put this down here at the bottom for you to write down. Okay, so that's the access, the entry address onto the Mutual of Omaha site is right down there at the bottom. So one of the unique pieces of Mutual's process is that there are 2 ways that you can handle signatures. If you're doing a screen share, you have the option of giving mouse control to the clients, and they're actually looking at the application on your desktop as you're going through this process, and you can walk them through clicking on the signature options. And then again, it's all electronic, so they don't actually have to sign, but they can click right through the 4 or 5 opportunities on the app where they do need signatures. Okay, Mutual also, and you'll see this in a minute, they've also got a little checkbox out there on the outside of the application process, and as you go through each section, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, every time you complete one, it goes from yellow to white. So if you're cruising along and you get to section D and you look back and you see that section A still has a yellow stripe through it, that tells you that there's something that you need to clean up. You need to go back there and take a look at that and figure out what that is. So let's step out here. We are going to zip over to Mutual of Omaha. So when you key in the main address, mutualofomaha.com, you get this opportunity over on the right side to sign in, and you go through what they call Sales Professional Access, which, as you can see, is right here. All right. It skipped over a dialog box because I was in there earlier, but it does require that you have a HIPAA compliant username and password. And once you get done with that, then it moves you into this page right here. And this gives you access to all the different resources, whether it be production reports, commission reports, case status, any of the things you'll need as you continue to work with the Omaha, the different parts of Mutual of Omaha's universe there, all come up on this page. And the most important piece is over here on the left side, this sales tools. As you can see, you click on electronic application and it flips you over to this page. And there are a number of different actionable links here that you can click on. And this actually is one big scrolling page that goes all the way down. All right. So, and you can scroll yourself down, or you can click here like this. And then as you can see, it gives you that start or continue e-app opportunity. Now, this also puts you in front of the sandbox, as I said before. Sandbox is a phenomenal opportunity to do a sample electronic application. You can do one on yourself. Gives you a feel for the flow, the construction, etc. So we're going to take a quick look here at that process and how it looks physically. I took the liberty at the very beginning of just creating the basics of an application. So in this case, I'm going to go into view applications because I have an existing one. You would go into start application. All right. So as you can see, I have an incomplete app here that I just did the absolute rudiments on. And it's a nice feature of all of these e-app opportunities is that if you get partway through or you're doing some basic entry on information, you know, name and address and date of birth and such, and you have to stop for something else, when you go out, it auto saves it. You go back in and then you have availability of it. So we'll click view here. Okay, so you get some of the basics. This is an individual application for a resident of Washington. I didn't put the applicant name in. We'll get to do that here in a second, but I'm going to go back in and I want to continue. So I'm going to hit edit. So as we talked about a minute ago, over here you have your your console, and as you can see, everything is in yellow. That means that nothing has been completed. And just as an example, we're going to take a second and we're going to walk through, and this will be very similar to everything else that we do. We're going to walk through this personal worksheet, and I'm doing that so that you can see a number of different pieces within the scope of this, and also see how this will go from blue over here to white when I get it completed. So it's a single application. We're going to say for easy math that it's $150 a month premium. Okay, and I'm stipulating that the answers to these questions describe my financial situation. I'm going to pay for this from income. All right, I have considered the possibility that the price can go up. Okay, I think my annual income is going to fit in here, and I'm hoping it's going to change. And you have to ask these questions of all of your different applicants, and I am going to buy inflation protection. And I'm going to choose an elimination period. And this gives you, it shows, and that's part of why I chose this particular piece, is that it shows part of the structure here is when I select other, it creates a drop down that allows me to substantiate that answer, and that substantiation is 90-day elimination period, and I anticipate the cost to be about $20,000 because I'm not worried about going on claim now. It's probably going to happen down the road a little bit. So how am I going to pay for care during the elimination period? Probably going to be savings and investments. Okay, so some other questions regarding savings and investments. How much are assets? And again, these are all questions that you would ask any of your applicants. How do I expect that to change? Hoping it'll increase. Okay, and then and they yellow stripe this to make sure you don't miss it. This particular box has to be checked. So that's done. All right, so now when I click next, this is going to move me into the general information, which is section A. But as you can see, it also shows me, by virtue of this section going white, that I completed it in its entirety. And as you go through each one of these sections, this is what you're going to see. It'll be blue while you're working on it. And then when you get to the end and you hit next, and they all scroll down, as you can see over here, so be aware of that. Okay, when you get to the end and you hit next, if you handled everything, it's going to give you the white stripe, so to speak. If not, it's going to point towards yellow, and that tells you that you missed something. And all you got to do to circle back is just go up and click on it, and it'll give you the opportunity to go back in there. Okay, so that's our overview on Mutual of Omaha. We're going to skip back here, and we're going to tackle our number 2 option, which is Thrivent. And let me switch this around here. Okay, there we go. So Thrivent uses the iGo platform, and I mentioned that because, again, we know that you are working with other carrier options and other product lines, and as such, this may lend some familiarity for you to how this is going to look. Okay, so they use the iGo platform. One thing worth noting, there is a bit of an added wrinkle with Thrivent in that they have a question pertaining to membership, and that membership is the Christian faith question, and it's something that is a part of that application process, excuse me, and it is something that they have to acknowledge. All right, Thrivent has a similar looking console on the left. The difference is their console, as I note here, red means no, green means go. So if you're working in section B and you think you're done and you move to section C and you still see a red question mark under section B, and you'll see it here in a minute, it's telling you that you've got to go back and you've got to provide some more information. And I'll give you a minute to write this down. This is the entry address for Thrivent, which is a program managed by Newman LTC. Give everybody a minute to go ahead and write that down, and then we'll hop back out of here and we will go into the website for the Thrivent product. All right, that's good enough time. It's important to note that either Don or myself or Anthony, once you complete the contracting process for any or all of the carriers we're talking about today, we're going to make a point of reaching out to you and offering to spend some time with you that get you out to these websites, these links to help you get the HIPAA compliant username and password that's required to help you take care of these details so that you are ready to engage in those transactions. So, all right, let's hop back over here. So, Newman LTC, and again, you have to be appointed with Newman, and you've got to have a producer number to do this. Once you get yourself into the system there, as you can see, all of their different carrier e-app options are here. Most importantly, Thrivent. Their support resources, they do have a user guide. They've got an illustration user guide, and they've also got a video walkthrough that you can use. They don't have a sandbox, but they make these other options available for you. And again, strongly encourage you prior to your first live fire exercise to take a minute, go through that, get yourself comfortable with this. So once you select this, it's going to take you into the iGo system. Oh, I'm going to have to log myself back into it. So let's see here. There we go. Okay, so we're back. This is actually how you get in. They have it. They call it Agent Toolkit, and they have a password that changes every 30 days. So as you're going along, you'll get notified of the updated password. You click Submit there. It takes you right back to where we were before. Got me where I didn't want to be. Well, let's try this again. There we go. Okay, so you click on Thrivent. This opens up the iPipeline, and they double check the login for you. Takes you into the iGo, the forms piece. Because I spent some time doing some setup for this process yesterday because I didn't want to drag you through all of those details, we're going to go into view my cases. And a lot of times that's going to happen because you, as I said before, you've made a point of entering name, address, social security number, some of those kinds of basics to speed the app process along. So you click view my cases, and as you can see, we got a couple different things going on here. I'm going to select this one down here. And under case actions, you select open case. And if this does what it's supposed to do, it takes you back in there, and you select the it's taking a minute to get it in there and get the information on. Great, okay. This is not where we wanted to be, so let's get back into my cases here. All right, so okay, we talked about the membership thing, the Christian calling. This is actually a piece of this that has to be signed off on. It's about it's about pursuing a life either with a partner who is pursuing Christian calling or individually choosing that they're going to do that. But there's actually a piece on that that's part of the signature process that they've got to do at the very, very beginning of the application before you get into the more conventional information. Wanted to take a second and give everybody a quick look at that. And let's get to see if we can get this thing opened up here. All right, it's not. Well, unfortunately, it's spinning me around in a bit of a circle here. So try this. Forms. Let's see if we can get this to open up the case this time. All right, try one other thing. Hang on for a second here. It keeps telling me it's an existing case, but it won't get into the app, unfortunately. So it actually worked simpler than this yesterday when I was working on it. So, but it does tend to want to run around in a circle here. So try one other thing here. See, we already had the case detail, so not wanting to do that. So all right, well, I don't want to hang us up for a long period of time here. Anybody that wants to spend some individual time with it when we get a little bit closer, it does actually work quite easily and quite effectively. For some reason, I'm in some sort of a loop here that I can't maneuver out of. It does require you to do, I can't tell you that it does require you to do the basics of an illustration, which sets up parameters that you're going to use as far as monthly benefit period, inflation options, those kinds of things, and then it actually imports that right over into the application there. So, all right, well, let's switch back over and we'll take a look at our next contestant here. Beginning. Hang on here. All right, so we got NGL now, and we're going to go back here. So this also requires that you lead off with an illustration. Not that big of a deal, but they all are a little bit different. They make available a sandbox option, which is, I like it better than the video, to be really honest with you, because I think the hands-on, the tactile part of that makes a significant difference for you. Again, we have the address down below that you use to actually get into the portal. They have the same type of structure that we talked about before with the console over there on the left-hand side. The difference here is that you get a bullseye looking icon there when you've completed the components of a particular section. Okay, so they all have a way of kind of keeping you on task and not letting you get too far away from something that you might have missed in section 2 or something like that. So they do keep you on track with that, which is good. And we'll venture over here and take a quick look at that. So for a second here, close this out. So we NGLessentiallTC.com. Okay, so this is your base page here. As is always the case, you're going to log yourself in. Okay, in addition to that login, everybody will be required to create a 4-digit PIN code. It's supposed to allow you to bypass security questions, but it still does require that PIN code each time, and this is a result of carrier concern about compliance with HIPAA. They want to make darn sure that somebody can't come in and sit down at your computer and, by virtue of the fact that you're using a browser that retains some of the login and username information, they want to make sure that there isn't access to any health information that would be contained within the system. All right, so clear this out of here. All right, so you go into, and again, as I said before, they have a sandbox, a test site. Take a quick gander at that. Very similar to what you would use for, kick me back, so get out of that. We'll go right into the e-app instead. So you got similar to some of the other construction that we've seen here, where you can go into a saved e-app, and we've got one of those in there, and we'll jump in there in a second, or you can create one brand new. And again, I know from working with a number of agents on a number of different projects similar to this, the agents like the ability to kind of get the application set up, get the basics out of the way, so that it's the old adage about you don't necessarily want to see how sausage gets made kind of thing. It allows you to get some of that out of the way. So we're going to go into that saved e-app, and as you can see, set up for myself. I'm going to continue with that. All right, and so we're in that application process. It's set up as a Washington State application. And as you can see, I put in some of the basic information here. If you look at the console over on the left-hand side, as I told you before, once you get that primary applicant information completed, like I did here, okay, then it gives you that bullseye icon there, and gives you that, allows you to move forward to the next thing. I did want to fill out a couple of different things here so you could see this all the way done. Give you some information that you may not have known and probably didn't need to know. So 6 feet. Give myself a break on the weight part here. A lot of drop downs and pull downs that you can make use of here, states and that type of thing. No, billing address is the same. All right, you go to next. Okay. Oh, social. It wasn't really particularly happy with me faking my way through it, so might be faking my way through it a different way. So hit next, completes that, takes you into additional contact information. It pre-filled the area code, so time to call, daytime, hit next. Okay, takes you, and as you can see now, you've cleared it. You're in the green again. Green means go, and it starts you walking through the different health questions. Okay, and it's going to require you to put entries into all of those, or you're not going to be able to move successfully through the process. You finish with that, takes you over into insurance coverage, confirms some of the basic details, make sure that SSDI is not involved, the kinds of things that will tend to get you kicked out. Want to make sure, they want to give you the option to make sure about lapse protection, somebody designated to keep that from being an issue. They do have the applicant statement or the agent statement as well, about how well you know the applicant, et cetera. And then there's some other policy ownership and some other details like that, new business transmittal, et cetera. They're a little bit different than others in that they bring the personal worksheet into play. At the end of the process, you finish all of this, it takes you into the steps to set up how they're going to pay for the coverage. And then the last piece that it takes you to is the electronic signature option. And again, this is the way that you can do this by virtue of a telephone and a screen share and continue to work and help clients out without having to deal with the face-to-face things that are so difficult to deal with right now. So let's go back here. So now we've covered that. It's worth noting that we do have a fourth carrier, but in the interest of expediency, we made a decision to spend some time and look at these three in particular. And it's also worth noting, and we spend a lot of time talking about this, okay, is that underwriting is still underwriting. And the truth is that it's probably much more similar between these three carriers than it is different. And so the proverbial sweet spot, as they used to say back in the day, probably is not as prevalent as it might have been once upon a time. So there are going to be cases where the clients don't divulge everything and you run into problems. But we are really fortunate that we have multiple great options for folks who have health issues, whether you encounter that at the beginning of the conversation or whether you find it out a little farther in. We've got a couple of carriers that we use for that, okay? And those carriers have a lot of different ways that we can make this very important coverage available to folks who are, they're health challenged. Let's just put it that way. And it's also important to note that those carriers also have their own individual electronic application options there. And let's switch this back around the other way. There we go. Okay, so those options are available for us. We can spend some time, get you set up with that particular carrier, get you set up with their process as well. And the nice part about those is that they tend to have, let's just say, fewer health questions than what you would have otherwise, which means that your clients can move through that most quickly. So finishing up with next steps, all right? So as most of you know, we've got a new landscape in terms of pricing and competitiveness for the carriers in most of the states, probably about 2/3 of those states, okay? We do have great options in all those states, okay? And we do have great options in other component parts of the long-term care space. So we have the ability to, as I said at the beginning, we've got the ability and the knowledge to bring to bear to help you help more people across a lot of different segments of the span, let's call it that, because you're going to have some folks that think that they want to talk about a single premium. We got the options for that. You've got folks that you're going to know right off the bat are going to be health challenged. We've got those options for that. So there are a ton of great options available. Okay, so that kind of transitions us towards a close here, which is why I've got out with the old. Contracting has now moved online as well, and we're fortunate in that we have a new contracting vendor that we use, Sure LC. And the nice part about working with Sure LC is you can pick up all three of the carriers that we talked about today, or any combination thereof. You can pick them up during the same work session with Sure LC, okay? And what it does is it keeps you from having to print and churn through, multiple pages with multiple different carriers. Your personal information is protected up in the cloud. You log yourself in, you make a determination that it's one of the three carriers that you want to add that we had today, and that it imports those questions. You answer the carrier questions, you select which of the lines of authority with those carriers that you want. It all gets taken care of right there with our Sure LC link. And that will be something that Anthony, as I said earlier, and Don Erickson and myself, we will be reaching out to everybody and making that opportunity available because frankly, nothing can start until we have you appropriately appointed with those carriers, and we certainly can't do the transactional piece. And the most important thing about any part of what we talked about today is it has to start with that conversation. It has to start with you picking up the phone and wanting to have a conversation with Prospect L and Prospect L's wife about this and your offer to help them solve this critical problem is the start that brings all of these different resources in and brings them to bear. So with that, now that we've reached the end, we're going to go ahead and open up for questions with folks. And we have had everybody muted along the way. I'm going to go ahead and unmute folks. I do ask, if you aren't going to ask questions, to go ahead and keep yourself muted. Most of our folks nowadays have actually taken to self-muting themselves. So I'm going to hit the command unmute, and we'll unmute as many people as is possible. We always ask that if you aren't going to ask a question, to go ahead and keep yourself muted so we don't have barking dogs and tea kettles and calls on other lines, other phone lines in the house and such there. So anybody with questions, go ahead and unmute yourself. It looks like most everybody has self-muted, which we do appreciate that, but I want to make sure that we cover anything. So
I have a question.
All right, fire away.
Okay, because most of these apps are going to be done virtually, and if we don't know the client that well and we don't meet them face to face, so does that leave it up to underwriting to determine whether or not they're, they're not using a walker or a wheelchair and all that kind of stuff?
Yes.
Okay.
There is a part of the producer statement on all these apps is going to acknowledge the fact that this was not a face-to-face sit down in the living room transaction, that it was an electronic transaction, whatever you want to say. And given that information, there's always going to be the option to do a face-to-face interview. The carriers never quite tell us the algorithm for folks under 65 to determine how they're going to go about doing that, but they do retain that as an option going along, and sometimes they may make that decision based on what they find out in medical records. But they're also asking these people multiple times whether they're using, because even if it's a phone interview, they're going to ask them whether they're using any sort of an assistive device. Okay? That's a good question, though. You do run into it a lot. So, all right, anybody else with questions out there? Most everybody is still self-muted, as I said before. So if anybody does have something, please feel free to unmute yourself and jump in.
One more question, then, since no one else is asking. Now, when we do because I kind of wasn't listening that well, but when we do contracting for all these companies, so it's done all at once through AIM or through Newman?
Well, we take care of the contracting for you.
Okay.
Our Sure LC option is an online option, and it lets you, once you get the basics about Mary Reagan, license number and things like that, you can very quickly move to different carrier selections and move through. And it doesn't require you to keep entering the same information about Mary Reagan with an address and the license number and E&O and some of these kinds of things. That's already aggregated there. So if you started cold and you were going to add all three of these carriers, it would easily cut your time by 75% compared to doing it with paper. And that's one of the reasons that we love it, and our agents have really embraced it, still kind of in the big picture, kind of early in the game. And we're just excited that we can help you move through so much more quickly and get back to the business of writing long-term care.
So that's on the YAIMLTC.com.
So we will actually email that out to you.
Oh, okay.
Okay. All right. There was a question here about those sites having a quote tool to do a simple quote, and yes, they do. And the dual enrollment cannot be for siblings. Okay. And as far as which option to choose, you probably want to consult. A lot of times, it's going to depend on some specific things based on the initial conversation that you would have had with your clients prior to coming back to them with a solution for what it is that they're trying to work with.
So can we compare a company next to each other, or is it?
Actually, we have on the YAIM website. So it is available once you're appointed. You can compare the carriers side by side. And really what that comes down to is, it's how much bang for how much buck, but it does give you that side by side option.
Okay, good.
All right. Anybody else with questions? Dave, did I hear you stepping in? And if not, don't say anything, but
Yep, I will just jump in and say thanks, Mike, for doing this demonstration. And for everyone that's listening on this phone, it's not always easy to do a demonstration and have everything go exactly the way it's planned. But bottom line is that how many times have you gone out and seen a client and not have all the forms with you, or the forms are outdated and having to go back and redo this? That's what a lot of this e-app virtual sales is going to do away with, and stop those repeated visits and going out there. It also allows you to broaden your territory from whatever state you might be residing in and doing business, to reach out even further. And when we go into our next session next week, we're going to show you exactly opening up the world to other markets besides the market that you work in, or the few markets that you might be working in. So this is really the way things are moving. And what I will tell you to make you feel very comfortable today is, what you're going to do is you're going to find a favorite out there, and you're going to get very proficient on that favorite because you use it all the time. Anytime you use something that you don't use on a regular basis, there's a little uncomfortableness there and maybe a little stumble or two, but you'll get through it. And you've got a support team behind you with AIM, and we'll be there to help you get through that. With that being said, I think we've got another thing that we're going to do about the gift cards. Is it Eliana's turn up, or Mike, you got something to finish with?
No, I was going to hand it off to Eliana. This is the part everybody's been waiting for, so we're going to turn it over. She's got our randomly selected 4 winners from today. So Eliana, take it away.
Yep, I've got our winners. So we have Joel Ferris, Linda Wong, Ernie Strobel, and David Landwehr. So like I said, these are going to be electronic Amazon gift cards that we will be emailing to you guys. So thank you so much for attending.
All right. Well, congratulations to the winners. Again, a reminder, the second of our World Series of Long-Term Care presentations will be next Tuesday, the 22nd, and it's hands-off LTC cross-marketing. Going to have a fantastic presentation. Aaron Cassover, who is a specialist that we work with a lot, he's phenomenal with this kind of stuff. So you're definitely going to want to be here early and be ready to pay hyper close attention, because Aaron's got he's going to have great material for you and great ways that you can take an existing book of business and convert over and make long-term care available for those folks. So got one final question, then we're going to wrap it up. So let's see. We did have a question about, should we add all 3 carriers, et cetera. I'd advocate for that, simply because it's the best way to make sure you're positioned to solve the problems that potential clients are going to have. So anyway, any other questions on the audio front, or we're going to go ahead and wrap up here? So, and we do appreciate everybody's time again. All right, fire away.
Before meeting the client, can we pre-fill the e-app with their names, date of birth, etc., if we already know those information, and then save so that we can open it later?
Yeah, absolutely. I actually covered that during the presentation. It's kind of an expectation that agents are going to do this just because they know they have an appointment at 10 and they're puttering around earlier in the morning, and they want to kind of keep some of the sausage making out from in front of the client. So yes, absolutely, you can do that. Absolutely. All right. All right, one more keyed in question, and just a thank you for everybody's hard work. So, okay, well, with that, we're going to wrap it up. Eliana will process this recording, and we will get it posted per the usual protocol on that. Look forward very much to seeing everybody with us again next week, Tuesday. A bit of a change for us. It'll be at 10 a.m. Pacific time, and that's hands-free long-term care cross-marketing with Aaron Cassover. So, all right, thanks everybody. Take care, and we'll look to talk to you soon. Bye now.